Silence is the most powerful scream. Think about that for a second, my friends. The loudest things in life aren't always spoken with words. They're carried in the spaces between them. And that's the hook of today's truth. Dark silence, when mastered, becomes the most addictive energy you can ever hold. Not noise, not begging, not chasing, but silence. Before we dive in, I want you to do something simple but important. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because what I'm about to share will flip the way you see silence forever. Hey folks, imagine this for a moment. Imagine walking into a room where a candle once burned brightly. Its light filled the corners, its flame kept the chill away, and people barely noticed because it was always there. But suddenly, one night, that flame goes out. The room is wrapped in darkness, and only then do people realize just how much that little flame mattered. That is you. That is what your silence becomes to the one who thought you would always be available. They didn't notice your glow when it was constant, but the moment it's gone, their soul craves it like air in the desert. You see, my friends, people tell lies about silence. They say silence is weakness. Silence means you've lost. Silence means you had no words left to fight. But here's the truth. Silence is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's not that you have nothing to say. It's that you've finally realized not everyone deserves to hear you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." That calm mind, that's silence, that's strength, that's you. Let me ask you a question. Have you noticed how when you stop texting first, suddenly their phone feels heavier in their hands? When you stop showing up at their call, suddenly your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. That's not weakness. That's power. That's dark silence at work. It's like holding a mirror to their face without saying a word, forcing them to confront the emptiness they created when they took you for granted. Think of it like this. You're not slamming doors, you're closing them quietly. You're not screaming, you're simply walking away. And that quiet departure, that's what shakes their world. Because human beings, folks, we crave what we can't control. We don't run after what's already chained to us. We run after what slips through our fingers like smoke. And your silence, my friends, is smoke. They can see it, they can sense it. But no matter how hard they try, they can't grab it. Now, I know some of you are smiling because you've seen it happen. You've watched someone pretend they didn't need you until you stopped making yourself available. Suddenly, the ones who claimed they were fine without you start circling back, testing the waters, trying to poke through the silence. That's because your energy, your voice, your presence has already been wired into their nervous system. You're not just a memory. You're a song stuck on repeat in their mind. And let's have a little fun with this, because you and I both know it's true. They can go out, meet someone new, laugh loud in a crowded place, post pictures trying to look happy, but when the night falls, when the noise fades, your silence screams louder than all of it. It's like having the best meal of their life once, and then being forced to eat plain bread every single day after. It doesn't matter how much they chew, it will never taste the same. So, my friends, stop believing the lie that silence is empty. Silence is not empty, it's full, full of power, full of mystery, full of everything they never thought they'd miss until it was gone. You don't need to fight. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. All you need is to hold your silence like a sword, because silence is the sharpest cut you'll ever make. And I want you to anchor this truth inside your spirit right now. Write this in the comments. I am dark silence. 3 words, my friends, but they carry the weight of your transformation. Say it, type it, own it, because that's exactly who you are. So don't forget, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because this isn't just another video. This is the beginning of you stepping into the most addictive energy the world has ever known. Dark silence, unreachable, untouchable, unforgettable. Number 1, the echo that haunts them. Silence is sometimes the most violent of answers. That line hits hard because it's the truth, my friends. Words may sting for a moment, but silence lingers. Silence forces them to hear their own thoughts, to sit with the echoes of everything they once ignored. And that is where the power begins, when your absence becomes louder than all your presence ever was. Picture this. They walk into a space where you used to light up the air with your voice, your energy, your laughter. They expect you to be there, like always. They assume your presence is guaranteed, that no matter what they did, you'd keep showing up. But this time, the chair is empty, the smile is gone. The warmth they depended on is nowhere to be found. Instead, the silence fills the room, and suddenly it feels heavier than any argument, heavier than any word you could have thrown at them. That emptiness becomes unbearable because it is no longer just a void. It's a mirror reflecting back to them what they lost. And in that silence, fear creeps in. They begin asking themselves questions they never thought they'd have to face. Why aren't you calling? Why aren't you chasing? Why aren't you fighting for your place in their world anymore? That confusion eats at them because people are addicted to certainty. They rely on the comfort of predictable patterns, and your silence breaks that pattern. When you stop reacting, you break their control. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's exactly what silence does. It drags their unconscious fears to the surface. It forces them to see themselves, maybe for the first time. They can't hide behind your forgiveness anymore. They can't numb themselves with your attention. Now, all they're left with is silence, and that silence unmasks their pride, their arrogance, their carelessness. But let's be real, it's not easy for you either. Detachment is not a walk in the park. When your heart once poured itself out, stepping back feels unnatural. Your mind whispers, "What if they forget me? What if my silence doesn't matter? What if they move on without noticing?" These doubts will creep in because you are human, because you once cared deeply. But here's the paradox, my friends. The very act of going silent is what makes them remember you harder. The very act of not chasing is what plants you deeper into their thoughts. Think of it like this. A candle burns brightly and people get used to its light. They take it for granted. They don't notice the glow, the warmth, the way it softens the room. But when that flame flickers out, suddenly the darkness becomes suffocating. The absence of that light becomes unbearable. That is what happens when you go silent. You are the flame they ignored until it was gone. Another metaphor, imagine water in a desert. A wanderer stumbles upon a spring and drinks freely, never thinking about the blessing in front of him. But when the spring dries up, the memory of that water drives him insane. He thirsts, not because he never had water, but because he once tasted it and now it's gone. That's what your silence does. They once drank from your presence, your love, your attention, and now, without it, their soul feels parched. The lie the world tells is that silence means you've lost. That if you don't fight, if you don't speak, if you don't beg, you're weak. But let me break that lie for you. Silence is not weakness. Silence is discipline. Silence is the art of pulling back your energy and saying, "I am enough," without proving it. It is you refusing to perform for someone else's validation. It is you becoming untouchable. And do you know what terrifies them most? It's not just that you're silent. It's that you're silent and thriving. You're not broken. You're not shattered. You're not begging for their attention. You're alive, glowing, moving forward. To them, you become like smoke, visible, present, but impossible to grasp. That presence haunts them more than your absence ever could. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that's what silence is. It's not revenge, not bitterness, not cruelty. It's clarity. It's you rising above the chaos, refusing to play their game. They expected a reaction, but you gave them reflection. They expected a fight, but you gave them silence. And that silence is louder than anything else. So, my friends, hold this truth tight. Silence is not empty. It's full of power, full of strength, full of clarity. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to fight to win. Sometimes the loudest message is the one carried by the quiet, and I want you to prove it to yourself right now. Write this in the comments. I am powerful in silence. Say it with conviction. Show it to the world. Show it to yourself. Show it to everyone who ever doubted you. Because when you master silence, you become unforgettable. Stay with me, my friends, because this is just the beginning. What comes next will show you exactly why dark silence is the most addictive energy in existence. Number 2. The hunger they can't satisfy. What we cannot have, we cannot forget. My friends, that single truth explains why silence becomes the most addictive energy on earth. Desire is not born from what we hold. It is born from what escapes us. And when you take back your presence, when you stop feeding their ego with your constant attention, you transform from something they assumed would always be there into something they cannot stop craving. Picture it. They walk out the door, confident. They believe they've won. They believe they've traded you in for something new, something brighter, something they can control. They post their smiles. They parade their laughter. They show the world how fine they are without you. But behind all that noise, something sinister is gnawing at them. An emptiness, a hunger. They keep reaching for substitutes, but nothing satisfies. Why? Because the taste of your energy has already marked them. Once you've tasted richness, blandness cannot satisfy. Let me break a lie right here. The lie that people move on quickly, that they replace you and forget you overnight. No, my friends, that's what they want the world to believe. But psychology tells us the brain stores emotional highs like treasures. The peaks, the intensity, the moments of being truly seen, those are etched into their nervous system. They can drown themselves in distractions, but the body always remembers. And silence is what sharpens that memory into a blade. Think of it like music. You know that song you once loved, the one that takes you back to a certain season of your life. Years later, it plays, and instantly your chest tightens, your eyes glaze, your skin tingles. That's what you become when you go silent. You're not around, you're not explaining, you're not even visible, but the imprint you left replays like a song in their veins. Every quiet night, every lonely pause, their body betrays them. Their chest remembers your laughter, their skin remembers your touch, their ears remember your voice. And no replacement, no matter how charming or new, can silence that song. But here's the hard part, they won't admit it. Pride will not allow them to confess how much they miss you, not at first. They will put on the mask of strength. They will smile in front of friends, say, "I'm over it." Pretend you're just a name in the past. Yet every night, when that mask comes off, when they are left alone with nothing but their thoughts, the hunger sharpens. Because silence gives them no closure, no explanation, no way to neatly package you into the past. Instead, you remain an unfinished story, and the mind is addicted to unfinished stories. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." And that's the very trap they fall into. They resist the thought of you. They push down the memories. They drown themselves in noise. But the more they resist, the more it persists. Your silence becomes the ghost that grows larger with every attempt to bury it. They thought silence meant you'd disappear. Instead, silence turned you into a haunting they can't escape. Now let me ask you, why is silence so hard for them? If they thought they didn't need you, shouldn't they be fine? The answer lies in one word: scarcity. Human beings place the highest value on what is rare. When you were always available, they treated your presence like running water, always flowing, always there. But the moment you shut off that tap, the thirst sets in. Scarcity creates desire, and your silence is scarcity in its purest form. Imagine diamonds lying scattered in the street. People would step over them, kick them aside, maybe even ignore them, but put one diamond behind glass, lock it where it can be seen but not touched, and suddenly it becomes priceless. That's you now. Your silence placed you behind glass. They can still see you glowing, they can still sense your presence, but they can no longer touch you, and that distance burns them more than any argument, more than any revenge ever could. Let's be real. Silence isn't easy for you either. Your heart once beat for them, your energy once flowed toward them, and pulling that back feels unnatural. You may feel the sting of habit breaking. Your mind may whisper, "What if they forget me? What if silence means I lose them forever?" But my friends, here's the truth. The very thing you fear is the very thing that makes them fear losing you. Your silence is not you fading. It is you sharpening into focus. It is not you disappearing. It is you becoming unforgettable. Let me paint another picture. A child has a toy they ignore. It sits in the corner, gathering dust. They hardly notice it, but the moment someone takes that toy away, suddenly it becomes the only thing they want. They cry, they reach, they obsess, because now it's gone. Adults are no different. They ignore what they assume will always be there, and when it's gone, their desire spikes. That is the psychology of your silence. You didn't need to scream, you didn't need to beg, you didn't need to prove. You simply stepped back, and in stepping back, you became the one thing they can't stop craving. And here's the beauty of it. Your silence is not cruel. It is not punishment. It is not manipulation. It is truth. It is you saying, "I no longer feed what does not value me." It is you reclaiming your power without drama, without explanation, without noise. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one in silence. You stop arguing about your worth. You simply embody it. You live it. You walk in it. And that is far louder than any words you could ever speak." So, my friends, don't fear silence. Don't doubt it. Silence is not emptiness. It's fullness. Full of discipline, full of strength, full of mystery. Every day you choose silence over chasing, you grow stronger. Every time you hold back your words and give them the mirror of their own actions, you rise. And in that rising, they feel the loss deeper and deeper. I want you to claim this truth right now. Write it in the comments. I am rare energy. Show it to the world. Show it to yourself. Show it to anyone who ever thought you'd stay chained to their approval. Because you are not ordinary, you are rare. And what is rare is never forgotten. Stay with me, because the next truth we uncover will take you even deeper into why your silence is not only haunting, it's magnetic. And once you understand the magnetism of dark silence, you'll never doubt its power again. Number 3, the magnetism of being unreachable. We long for what eludes us, and we disdain what clings. Those words pierce straight into the core of human nature, my friends. Think about it. When something is always available, always begging, always waiting, we take it for granted. But when something slips away, when it moves out of our grasp, suddenly it becomes irresistible. And this is the secret of silence. This is why your dark silence, your refusal to explain, your withdrawal of energy becomes the most magnetic force they will ever encounter. Imagine this with me. A bird sits on your shoulder every day. It chirps, it sings, it stays close. You barely notice it after a while because it's always there. But one day, that bird spreads its wings and soars high into the sky. It doesn't disappear, it's still visible, but now it's untouchable. You look up, stretching your arms, whistling, hoping it will return, but it doesn't. That's you, my friends. You're not gone. You're not erased. You're just unreachable. And nothing torments the human heart more than seeing what it once possessed still exist, but out of reach. And here's the psychology behind it. People don't crave what they already control. They crave what they might lose forever. That's why when you pull back, when you stop being at their beck and call, their desire doesn't fade. It intensifies. It's like gravity, slow but unstoppable. You become the planet they orbit around, no matter how much they try to resist. But let me break a lie for you. The lie that being unavailable makes you cold, bitter, or cruel. No, my friends, your unavailability is not bitterness, it's focus. You're not hiding to punish anyone. You're not silent to manipulate. You're silent because you've finally understood the truth. Your peace is worth more than their approval. Your energy is too valuable to keep pouring into empty hands. You're not unavailable out of anger. You're unavailable because you're building, because you're rising, because you're aligning with your own power. Think of a diamond. If diamonds were scattered in the street, people would step over them. But lock a diamond behind glass, make it rare, untouchable, and suddenly it becomes priceless. That's what your silence does. It places you behind glass. They can see you. They can sense your glow. They may even catch glimpses of your life continuing without them. But they can't touch you. They can't access you. And that distance drives them mad. Now, you may be wondering, if silence is so magnetic, why don't they run back instantly? Why do they still pretend to be fine? The answer is pride. Pride is the mask they wear. It tells them not to admit their craving, not to confess how much they miss you. So instead of facing the truth, they bury themselves in distractions. They chase substitutes. They scroll endlessly. They drown themselves in shallow company. But none of it satisfies. None of it tastes like you. And here's where the magnetism deepens, because pride doesn't erase craving. Pride delays it, but silence keeps feeding it. Every day you don't speak, every day you don't break, their pride loses another layer. Slowly, like peeling skin from fruit, the truth is exposed. And the truth is this: your silence has made you rarer than ever. Let me ask you, my friends, have you ever noticed how the mystery of someone is often more attractive than their certainty? The unknown keeps us restless. The unanswered keeps us awake. That's what your silence does. It turns you into a living question mark. They wonder where you are. They wonder what you're doing. They wonder if you ever think of them. And that wondering is torture, because the human mind cannot rest with unanswered questions. You've become their cliffhanger, you've become their unfinished novel, and unfinished stories are always addictive. Now let's be real, it's not easy to hold this silence. It's not easy to stay unavailable when everything inside you once wanted to explain, to prove, to show them what they lost. But explanation is weakness. It hands them power. And silence is strength. It makes them do the explaining in their own head. Every day they replay the past. Every day they imagine different endings. Every day they write speeches you will never hear. That's what makes your silence so addictive. It forces them to do all the chasing in their own mind. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your silence proves this truth. You may not control their actions, you may not control their choices, but you control yourself. And that control is what makes you magnetic. Because nothing is more attractive than someone who does not need. Neediness pushes people away. Independence pulls them in. Think of two fires. One flickers desperately, weak, fragile, begging for oxygen. The other roars steady, strong, self-sustaining. Which fire pulls you in? The roaring one. The fire that doesn't beg to survive but thrives on its own. That's you now. That's the magnetism of being unreachable. They see you glowing, burning, alive, but no longer dependent on them. And that sight terrifies them because it proves they never had the control they thought they did. And my friends, don't underestimate the curiosity your silence creates. Curiosity is one of the strongest forces in human psychology. We cannot stand not knowing. We cannot stand unfinished endings. That's why people binge entire shows, read through entire books, scroll endlessly through feeds. Curiosity keeps the mind hooked, and your silence makes you the unsolvable mystery of their life. They wonder, they obsess, they compare every new face to you. They measure every new moment against what they once had with you, and each time they come up short. But here's the beauty. You don't need to do a single thing. You don't need to chase. You don't need to post. You don't need to prove. Your silence is the message. Your silence is the magnet. Your silence is what makes them crave you more than words ever could. And so I want you to hold this truth close. Being unavailable is not your weakness, it's your leverage. Scarcity creates value. Mystery creates obsession. Silence creates magnetism. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to fight to be remembered. All you need is to stand firm in your silence, and the magnetism will do the rest. So, my friends, anchor this truth inside yourself right now. Write it in the comments. I am rare energy. Say it with certainty. Say it with pride. Say it not just to me, but to yourself, to the world around you, to everyone who ever doubted your worth. Because you are not common, you are not ordinary, you are rare, and rare things are never forgotten. Stay with me, because the next truth will take us deeper into the psychology of craving, the exact reason why people want most what they cannot control. And when you understand that, you'll never see silence the same way again. Number 4. The psychology of craving what you can't control. Man is not disturbed by things, but by the view he takes of them. That was Epictetus, my friends, and his words cut straight to the core of human behavior. We don't break down because of events. We break down because of what those events mean to us, the story we tell ourselves about them. And nothing disturbs the human mind more than losing control of what it thought it owned. That is the curse, and that is the secret of why your silence becomes the most addictive energy they will ever face. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a locked door. For years it stood open. They walked in and out freely, never noticing it, never appreciating the access. They assumed it would always swing open at their touch. But one day, you close it. You turn the key. You don't slam it. You don't make a scene. You just quietly lock it. Suddenly, that door becomes the only thing they think about. What's behind it? Why can't I get in anymore? Why was it so easy yesterday, but impossible today? That's how the human mind works. We crave what slips out of reach. We hunger for what we cannot control. Psychologists call this reactance. It's the natural response we have when our freedom to access something is blocked. Deny a child a toy, and suddenly it's the only toy they want. Restrict an adult's choices, and they obsess over the one they can't have. It's not just preference, it's psychological warfare. And when you go silent, when you detach, when you no longer hand them your energy on demand, you ignite this exact reaction inside them. The one who once dismissed you now feels dismissed. The one who once rejected you now feels rejected. And the ego cannot handle this reversal. But let's be honest, it's not easy for you either, because silence isn't natural when your heart once poured itself out. You're used to giving, to explaining, to making sure they understand your worth. Pulling back feels wrong at first. Your mind whispers lies. What if they forget me? What if they never come back? What if silence doesn't work? But here's the paradox, my friends. The very silence you fear is the silence that makes you unforgettable, because nothing lodges deeper in the mind than the image of what it once had and can't control anymore. Think about thirst. A wanderer in the desert doesn't dream of gold or crowns or even company. He dreams of water. And not because water is rare in the world, but because in his moment it is rare to him. He once drank it freely and now he can't. That's what your silence does. You become the water they once drank, the nourishment they once had. And now, without you, everything else feels dry, empty, tasteless. And don't be fooled by their performance. They may act fine. They may smile, laugh, post pictures, talk about how happy they are without you. That's pride. That's mask. But masks don't erase truth. And the truth is, their ego is bleeding. Because pride hates nothing more than losing control. Pride whispers, "You're supposed to be the one rejecting, not the one being rejected." But your silence flips the script. You've rejected them without saying a single word. Carl Jung once said, "We don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that's what your silence forces them to do. It makes them conscious of their own darkness, their pride, their arrogance, their carelessness. It makes them see clearly that your love was never endless, that your energy was not an infinite resource, that you were never theirs to command. And that realization cuts deeper than any words could. Now let's break another lie. The lie that silence means you've lost your power, that silence means they've forgotten you. No, my friends, silence does not erase you, it engraves you. It carves you deeper into their mind because it leaves questions unanswered. And unanswered questions become obsessions. Why did you stop calling? Why did you stop caring? Why did you stop being the person they assumed you'd always be? That's the beauty of silence. It leaves the mind restless, circling back, replaying, rewriting, until you're living in their head rent-free. Picture it this way. Imagine a book with the last chapter missing. You've read everything up to that point. You know the characters, the story, the build-up. But when you get to the end, the pages are gone. What happens next? That question drives you insane. You imagine different endings. You replay every detail looking for clues. You can't move on. That's you when you go silent. You become the unfinished story. You leave them with the missing chapter, and their mind refuses to let it go. But here's where your strength must hold. Because it's tempting to break the silence, to prove your worth, to ease the tension. Don't. The moment you explain, the moment you hand back control, the craving ends. The magnetism dies. You go from rare back to common, from mysterious back to predictable, and nothing kills desire faster than predictability. Instead, stand firm in your silence, because silence is not emptiness. It's not weakness, it's clarity, it's strength, it's you reclaiming what was always yours, your peace, your dignity, your power. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's what your silence proves. You are no longer at the mercy of their approval. You no longer dance for their attention. You control your own energy, and that control is irresistible. Now let me give you one more metaphor to anchor this truth. Imagine a fire. While it burns, people take it for granted. They sit around it, warm their hands, cook their food. They don't notice how precious it is until the flame goes out. Suddenly the cold bites, the darkness closes in, and all they can think about is the fire they no longer have. That's you, my friends. You were the fire. And when you went silent, when you stepped back, they felt the chill. And that chill doesn't fade. It grows. So hold your silence. Hold your peace. Don't chase. Don't explain. Don't hand back what you've taken. Because your silence is not absence. It's presence in its most haunting form. It's the echo they can't escape, the craving they can't satisfy, the locked door they can't open. And now I want you to claim this truth with me. Write this in the comments right now. I am in control. Don't just type it. Say it with your chest. Say it until you feel it in your bones. Show yourself. Show the world around you, because that is exactly who you are. You are no longer the one begging for entry. You are the one holding the key. Stay with me, my friends, because what comes next will cut even deeper. We're going to step into the hidden truth of how your energy, once given, wires itself into their nervous system, and why your silence doesn't just echo in their mind, but in their body. And once you see that, you'll never doubt the power of dark silence again. Number 5, the memory that lives in their body. The body keeps the score. That's not just a poetic phrase, my friends. It's a psychological truth. Memories don't just live in the mind, they live in the flesh, the nerves, the heartbeat. Long after words fade, long after logic tries to erase, the body still remembers. And this is why your silence doesn't just disturb them, it haunts them physically. It's not just their thoughts you live in, it's their nervous system. Picture this with me. A song plays unexpectedly on the radio, a melody you haven't heard in years. Instantly, your chest tightens, goosebumps rise on your arms, and your mind flashes back to a moment, a person, a place. You didn't choose to remember, but your body chose for you. That's how you exist in them now. You are their song, their melody, their echo. Even in silence, you resurface without warning, because the body does not forget what once set it on fire. Science confirms it. When two people spend enough time together, their bodies begin to synchronize. Breathing patterns align, heartbeats mirror, even brain waves begin to hum in rhythm. So do you really think they can just walk away and delete that? No, my friends. They can bury thoughts. They can force smiles. They can distract themselves with new faces. But their body betrays them. Their chest still remembers the weight of your head resting there. Their ears still hear your laughter when the room falls quiet. Their skin still feels the ghost of your touch when they close their eyes. And here's the paradox. They thought leaving you meant freedom. They thought rejecting you meant control. But your silence only amplifies what's already been stored inside them. Every absence is a trigger. Every quiet moment is an ambush. They lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, telling themselves they've moved on, and suddenly, out of nowhere, your face appears in their mind. Not because they want it to, but because their nervous system has coded you in. You're not just a memory, you're a body memory. Carl Jung spoke about the unconscious, the hidden depths of our being that we cannot control. Your presence has sunk into their unconscious. Even if they deny you with their conscious mind, even if they try to overwrite you with someone new, the unconscious keeps pulling you back up. That's why a passing scent on a stranger can wreck them. That's why a phrase, a laugh, a look on someone else's face can ignite an ache they thought they buried. Their body keeps replaying you like an echo that refuses to die. And I know what you might be asking. If their body remembers me so deeply, why doesn't that make them return sooner? The answer is pride. Pride builds a wall between the craving of the body and the actions of the ego. Their pride whispers, "Don't admit it. Don't show weakness. Don't confess you miss them, so they sit in silence, restless, aching, trying to prove to the world and to themselves that they're fine. But their body tells a different story. Their restless sleep, their sudden moods, their moments of unexplained longing, those are you, haunting them through the nervous system they can't control. Imagine this. They're sitting across from someone new. The conversation is flowing, the laughter feels polite, maybe even forced. And then, mid-smile, their body betrays them. A memory of you flashes, the way you tilted your head when you listened, the way your eyes lit up when you laughed. Suddenly, the new person feels flat, incomplete, tasteless. It's like biting into an apple that looks perfect but has no flavor. And once you've tasted sweetness, blandness can never satisfy. That's the power of body memory. It compares, it craves, it rewrites every new encounter against what was once engraved. And let's break another lie here. The lie that time erases everything. People will tell you, time heals all wounds. No, my friends. Time dulls the edges, but it doesn't erase what was deeply carved. Some songs still make your chest ache decades later. Some places still carry the ghosts of laughter and tears long gone. Some scents still trigger waves of nostalgia so strong they make you stop in your tracks. That's not erasure. That's proof that the body holds what the mind cannot. This is why your silence is not just powerful, it's devastating. Because in silence, you don't need to remind them who you were. Their own body does the reminding for you. Every restless night, every sudden ache, every phantom memory is proof of your presence lingering inside them. You don't need to send a message. You don't need to explain. Their nervous system is your messenger. Their craving is your testimony. But I won't lie to you, it hurts at first, for you too, because your body also remembers. Your nervous system also craves. That's why silence is difficult in the beginning. That's why detachment stings. You're rewiring yourself. You're breaking a cycle of dependency. And just like any addiction, the withdrawal burns before the freedom comes. But every day you hold the silence, every day you resist the urge to break it, your body adjusts. Your nervous system begins to rewire around peace instead of chaos, around self-respect instead of desperation, around clarity instead of confusion. And that's when silence becomes not just your weapon, but your healing. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Your silence proves that power. Because you can't control their body, their cravings, their obsessions, but you can control yours. You can choose not to feed the hunger that starves you. You can choose to break the cycle, and in doing so, you become stronger than they ever imagined. Now let me give you a metaphor to lock this truth in. Think of an echo in a canyon. You shout once, and your voice bounces back again and again, long after you've gone silent. That's you inside their body, your voice, your presence, your touch. It echoes, it reverberates in their nervous system even as you've stepped into silence, and the quieter you are, the louder the echo becomes. So here's what I want you to claim right now. Write it in the comments. I am unforgettable energy. Not because you're shouting, not because you're chasing, not because you're proving, but because you've already been written into their body memory. Say it, type it, own it, show yourself, show the world. Because unforgettable is exactly what you are. And stay with me, my friends, because what comes next will strike even deeper. We're going to step into the crushing reality of regret, the moment they realize you are not just unforgettable in memory, but untouchable in reality. And that, my friends, is where silence hits hardest. Number 6, when regret becomes their shadow. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca said that, and my friends, it strikes like lightning when we talk about regret. Because regret isn't just about what happened, it's about what could have been. Regret is the phantom pain of a choice they can't undo. And when you step into silence, when you detach and begin to thrive without them, regret attaches itself to them like a shadow they cannot shake. Picture this. They once thought walking away would break you. They thought betrayal would crush you. They imagined you curled up, desperate, waiting for their return. But then they look again, and what do they see? Not weakness, not collapse, not dependence. They see you alive. They see you smiling. They see you growing. It's like a tree they thought was just a seed. They buried it in the dirt, ignored it, dismissed it. But now that seed has grown into a towering oak, impossible to overlook, rooted so deeply it cannot be moved. That is the image that burns them, not your fall, but your rise. And here's where regret eats them alive. It's not just about losing you, it's about realizing they underestimated you. They told themselves a story. You were replaceable. You would crumble without them. You were ordinary. But when you rise, when you glow brighter than before, that story collapses. Their pride can't bear it, because now every success you have, every smile you wear, every new chapter you live becomes a mirror reflecting their failure to value you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that's exactly what your silence does. It doesn't scream, it doesn't lash out, it doesn't seek revenge. It simply thrives. And thriving, my friends, is the heaviest sword you can ever wield, because it forces them to look in the mirror and see exactly what they lost, not because you told them, but because your life proves it. But let's be real, regret doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in. At first, they deny it. They tell themselves they're fine, that they made the right choice, that you didn't matter as much as they thought. They laugh louder, they post happier pictures, they surround themselves with noise. But then comes the quiet moment, late at night, scrolling through old photos, hearing a song you once shared, stumbling across your name in conversation. And suddenly, their chest tightens. Suddenly, the memory of your energy slams into them like a wave they weren't prepared for, and the truth they've been denying rises up. They didn't just lose someone. They lost someone unforgettable. Here's the irony, my friends. They thought rejection would give them control. They thought leaving you put the power in their hands. But your silence flipped it. You walked away without begging, and in doing so, you handed them a gift they didn't expect. Space to imagine, and imagination is cruel. It exaggerates, it glorifies, it turns ordinary memories into treasures. They don't just remember you, they rewrite you. They replay what they said, what you did, what could have been, and each time the regret deepens because they can't go back and change it. Think of it like a wound. When it first happens, the pain is sharp, but it fades. But if you keep pressing that wound, reopening it, it becomes infected, festers, and grows worse. Regret is that infection, and your silence, your thriving, keeps pressing the wound in their pride. Every time they see you happy without them, the infection spreads. Every time they hear about your success, the pain throbs. And unlike a physical wound, regret doesn't heal easily. It lingers. It becomes a companion they can't shake. And you might wonder, why does my thriving bother them so much? Shouldn't they be happy if they claimed they didn't need me? The answer is pride. Human pride cannot stand being proven wrong. They told themselves, and maybe even others, that you were weak, that you'd never survive without them. But when you thrive, when you glow brighter in their absence, you dismantle their entire illusion. And nothing crushes pride like undeniable proof. Here's another picture for you. Imagine they're holding a balloon. They release it, laughing, thinking it's no big deal. But as it rises higher and higher, drifting out of reach, panic sets in. They realize too late what they let go of. They jump, they reach, but the balloon floats higher still. That balloon is you. They thought letting go meant freedom. But watching you rise without them becomes unbearable, because now they know you'll never be theirs to hold again. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And that is the core of their regret. They wasted their chance with you. They wasted the light you offered, the love you gave, the energy you poured out, and now they see it too clearly. Time won't give them back what they squandered. You've moved forward, and all they can do is watch. That helplessness is what breaks them. But my friends, let's not romanticize regret too much, because regret is also your freedom. It's proof that you never needed to shout to be remembered. You never needed to beg to be valued. Your silence did all the work. Your growth did all the speaking. You are not haunted by their regret. They are haunted by yours. And yes, it's hard for you in the beginning. Detachment stings. Silence feels empty. You'll wonder if they'll even notice. But trust me, silence is never unnoticed. The flame that once lit a room is always remembered most when it goes out. You were that flame, and now that it's gone, they feel the cold in ways they never expected. So hold this truth tightly. You don't need to prove them wrong. Life itself is proving it for you. Every day you rise, every step you take forward, every smile you wear is another nail in the coffin of their illusions. Regret is their shadow now, not yours, and shadows don't leave easily. So I want you to claim this right now. Write it in the comments. I thrive without them. Don't whisper it. Don't type it half-heartedly. Say it with your chest. Say it with conviction. Because your thriving is not just healing. It's your silent revenge, your quiet victory, your undeniable proof. And stay with me, my friends, because we're not done yet. Regret is powerful, but what happens next is even heavier. When silence turns you from a memory into a myth, when you become not just someone they lost, but the fantasy they can never kill, that is when silence reaches its most addictive form. And that is where we're going next. Number 7. When silence turns you into a living myth. What you resist not only persists, but grows in size. Those words are often attributed to Jung, and my friends, they ring truer here than anywhere else. Because when you go silent, when you refuse to explain, when you choose not to beg, you don't disappear. You don't fade into the background like a forgotten song. No, you transform, you evolve, you become something much larger in their mind than you ever were in reality. Your silence turns you into a living myth, a story they keep replaying, rewriting and glorifying until you're no longer just a person. You're a legend they can't escape. Think of it like nostalgia. People rarely remember the past exactly as it was. They edit, they soften the pain, they amplify the joy. Ordinary days become golden summers in their memory. Flaws are smoothed over, fights are blurred, but the feeling remains, and that feeling is magnified. That's what happens to you when you step into silence. You don't just stay in their memory, you grow in it. Your smile becomes brighter than it ever was. Your laugh becomes sweeter. Your presence becomes larger than life, because their mind, starved of your reality, starts feeding itself with fantasy. Picture them lying awake at night. They tell themselves they're fine. They tell their friends they've moved on. But when the darkness closes in, their imagination turns you into a ghost they cannot shake. They hear your voice in the quiet. They feel your touch in the stillness. They replay conversations, adding words you never said, picturing forgiveness you never gave. And the cruelest part, the more they try to resist, the more the myth of you grows. You've become the cliffhanger of their life story, the book without an ending, the song cut short before the final verse. And the mind cannot stand an unfinished story. But let's be clear, It's your silence that creates this transformation. If you had begged, if you had clung, if you had filled the air with your explanations, they would have grown numb to you. They would have taken your presence for granted, dismissing it like background noise. But by pulling back, by saying nothing, you created space. And space is the canvas where their imagination paints. Silence doesn't erase you. It immortalizes you. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine smoke rising into the air. At first, you see the flames that created it, but soon the fire is gone. All that's left is the smoke, drifting, untouchable, lingering far longer than the flames ever did. That's you now. They thought rejecting you would put out the fire. They thought betrayal would leave nothing behind. But instead, your silence turned you into smoke, intangible, haunting, always present, yet impossible to hold. And here's the irony. They might meet new people. They might laugh with them, touch them, even fall into temporary passions. But none of it feels real, because every new person gets measured against the myth of you, and no one can compete with a myth. Reality always falls short of fantasy. So while you live free in your silence, they are trapped in comparison, forever chasing a ghost they can't replace. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And their thoughts now are dyed with you. Your silence painted you in shades of rarity, of mystery, of untouchable strength. They may try to wash it out with distractions, but the stain remains. You've become part of their story, whether they like it or not. Now let me break a lie, the lie that silence means they've forgotten you. No, my friends. Silence doesn't mean you're forgotten. Silence means you've become unforgettable. Forgotten things fade quietly, like old receipts or broken trinkets, but unforgettable things, they don't fade, they echo, they linger, they grow larger the further away they drift. That's you. You are not absence. You are presence, magnified by distance. And let's not overlook this. Thriving without them is what locks the myth in place. If you disappeared in bitterness, if you collapsed in their absence, the myth would dissolve. They could say, "See? They needed me." But when you rise, when you glow, when you move forward without hesitation, you become the haunting they can't deny. You're not a tragedy. They can't pity you. You're not broken. They can't dismiss you. You're living proof of their greatest mistake. And that proof keeps the myth alive forever. Think of legends in history. Most of them aren't remembered because of constant presence, but because of absence, because of mystery, because of the power of what was left unsaid. Your silence places you in that category. You're no longer fighting to be remembered. You've already secured it. Your story has etched itself into their psyche, and whether they admit it or not, you'll be the ghost they compare everyone else to. But let me be real with you. It's not easy to hold this silence. It's tempting to break it, to step back into the light, to remind them of what they lost. But don't, because the second you hand them words, the myth dissolves. The second you make yourself predictable, you lose your rarity. Your silence is your sanctuary. Your silence is your power, and if you hold it, the myth only grows. So let me leave you with this truth. You don't need revenge. You don't need explanations. You don't need closure. You already have the greatest power of all, silence, that turns you into a legend in their memory. You are not gone. You are not erased. You are immortalized in the only place that matters, their nervous system, their imagination, their restless nights. And now, my friends, I want you to claim this truth for yourself. Write it in the comments. I am unforgettable silence. Say it, own it, let it echo inside you until it becomes your reality, because that's what you are, not just remembered, but mythologized, not just missed, but immortalized. And if this message struck something deep in you, Don't keep it to yourself. Press that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Stay with me, because your rise is not over. Your silence is only the beginning of the legend you're becoming.